you that.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Hey, that was an accident, but I'm glad we're here.
It's always good to start off with all three people smiling. I think.
No, I agree. Jessica, welcome back. You are actually
like
the
we
first
gotta get her
third
like
timer.
a jacket.
Yeah,
like
I
they
think
do
so.
on SNL.
Yeah. This is number 3. You are our first, I don't want to shit. I almost said the first threesome. I'm like, whoa, that's not how it sounds. You are the first three-peater. Let's put it that way.
Three-peater, yeah.
Yeah.
We can give you a pack of rolling papers that are customized.
Yeah,
but that's about all we got right now.
I'll use them to take notes. I'll put tiny notes on them.
Tiny notes.
I guess they could be, they could lick the back and stick them on stuff like a Post-it, but you get one use.
Yeah. I love though that you actually now know how to do this. You came with like a little crib sheet with like what we wanted to. I love it. It's fantastic.
She's like, these idiots don't have any direction.
No.
I better have some ideas.
I love it. Better seed the fun a little bit. Oh man. So anyway, how let's just start off easy. How you been, man?
I am excited. I am so creative right now. Do you ever like have so much creativity that you just can't sleep at night because your mind is brimming with fun ideas and you can't wait to do them in the world?
Yes.
Did you say anxiety? Because I have crippling anxiety that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
No, fun, magically fun creativity.
No.
I love it.
It's either fun creativity that's keeping me up at night or I'm turning into a werewolf. That might also be fun.
These two things are
Jessica's
equally
a millennial
possible.
because I'm definitely like, no, it's angst. It's fucking angst.
It's angst. So, it's funny. I think the world right now, it can actually be the most creative place it's ever been, or it could be the most terrifying place it's ever been. And I feel like choosing which direction you're going to kind of lean in on is an increasingly difficult thing to do. Right.
But I think you can hold that duality, right? There's some scary shit, but there's also some really, really amazing shit.
Yeah. And actually it's quite easy to step into the amazing, beautiful, fun, creative side. And
well, tell me how, because I don't necessarily disagree, but I do think it's difficult.
I don't think Jessica's coming with the psychedelic button here either.
Yeah.
Like that's normally, you trip balls. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Can be part of the equation to reset your perspectives in a way that shifts fear into trust. But I wasn't going to go there.
Sure, yeah. No, it's okay. We talk about it all the time. You feel free to go there.
You know us.
Yeah.
Choosing where to place your focus. And your perspective changes. And so the thing that I've done is, I named my home the Magical Unicorn Land.
Okay.
And it's also the Unicorn Safe House.
I heard this. What prompted this? Like, did we need a rebrand or like what happened?
I'm just reliving parts of my childhood that weren't safe for me to do as a kid. And
that's
so
interesting.
A little bit of like, what's the term? Like you reparent yourself. Like you give yourself the things that were not safe or accessible as a child that children would need. And so I'm like, as I go on my continuous never-ending healing journey, because I'm a human being, then I realize like, I'm tapping into my inner child and there's all of these super fun. I'm just having like more fun than I've ever had in my entire life. And it's so easy.
Interesting. So if I remember correctly from 2 shows ago, because like I said, you are you're getting deep now in the numbers here.
Yeah.
You grew up with a really, really strict religious background. Is that correct?
Yes, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Correct. Right.
My dad was not one. My dad was raised as a Catholic and then got more into like non-denominational Christian. And there was lots of, I guess you could call religious warfare in my household.
Yeah.
I don't know why, like what Catholic family would marry a Jehovah's Witness? Like I'm coming from an old school Italian kind of background where it's like, the fuck?
Well, I would say that the same would be true. I mean, what Muslim, what Jewish, what Catholic, like that's a very specific religious.
Yeah.
No birthday parties?
Birthday parties. Oh, I know, like as a kid when it was time to like pass around the birthday treats, I'd have to like go or like sing Christmas songs. I'd have to go and like sit in the hallway by myself.
Oh my God, that sounds fucking awful. I mean, talk about psychological warfare on children. Like, I mean, Jesus, criminy, like that is torture. I mean,
Yeah, everyone goes and like sings happy Christmas songs and it's like, okay, Jessica, go sit in the hallway.
and you're like, oh,
I gotta
my
say,
God.
I the Christmas music, it all fucking sucks.
I love it now. I can listen to it. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, you can do
Well,
whatever.
that's very true.
But you know what? It may be tangential, but like, here's where religion and I come to like blows. Do you see what's going on in Texas right now with this whole 10 Commandments nonsense?
Oh.
Have either of you seen this?
Looks like a job for the Satanic Temple.
So
I don't watch the news, and that's part of why life is so
much better. Yeah. Well,
Like-
I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news, but things make it through the veil every now and again. And this one made it through. But apparently there is a bill that passed the Senate and the House in Texas, and it's going to the governor, I think today, but it's going to mandate, not just allow, but mandate that classrooms have the 10 Commandments printed large enough for a human being to read. And that's the language in the bill.
People in Texas can't fucking read.
I mean, like, Jesus, like,
come at me. We've got nobody listening in Texas.
Yeah. But here's my point. Like when you have something like that, right? Imagine, Jessica, put yourself back in that little girl's place where you are an 8-year-old. You can't listen to Christmas songs. You can't do anything. Imagine you in that school where not only can you now not listen or participate in Christmas songs, but you got to look at the fucking 10 Commandments staring you in the face, which may or may not be part of your construct. You know, like it feels like religion gets real wacky. And I think that like that can't be good as adults, right? Like when you have to come back and reconcile
the death penalty. Aren't they violating one of the commandments right there by having that as a law?
That's a good point. I never thought about it.
You know, the fucking, it's not even deep. I mean, they're easy. Don't kill people. Don't steal people. Don't fuck other people's, spouses.
Right.
You know, but like, how about this? Don't be a piece of shit,
Right.
And they're,
yeah.
Pretty easy. I mean, Austin's cool. I don't want to shit on Austin.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know about any of that. And
sorry.
Like, there's a past version of myself that would have been probably like really livid and angry at that. And I just take things so much more lighthearted. I'm like, oh, that's just a new perspective that someone can choose to adopt. Maybe at that time or never, or I don't know, just like way more lighthearted. I'm like, hey, we can do something with that. And we have free will to do whatever we want with that when it's in our face.
Well, I think that is where my problem is. They don't have free will. They have to be in that classroom. They have to look at that stupid thing on the wall. And therefore it's not really a choice. And there's where I start getting into it. And this is actually the same problem that I have with your story is like, you weren't given a choice. Like that wasn't optional to like, you know what I mean? Like you didn't say like, oh, I think today I'm going to choose to sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No, you're like, that's a hard pass. Like you can't like,
Well, the songs are so catchy too. It's like, I would be overwhelmed. My body would go into like a freeze response. So I'd be overwhelmed with shame because
when you heard it,
yeah, because I could tell that they're so catchy in such a way that they're made that you want to sing along and hear them. And like, what kid wouldn't?
Sure.
And then, so the shame of enjoying the music would override. And then my body would go into a freeze response full of shame. And then also feeling like, knowing that I was essentially the different oddball out at school. So then I would be the one who would be bullied.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's like a clear, obvious path of that. Like, I mean, that's what I said. If you were in that school as 8-year-old little Jessica and like, there's a 10 Commandments on there and you're like, yeah, hard pass. Like these kids all have parents that fought to get that hung up on the wall. Like, if that makes sense, right? So they're probably not the most, open-minded folks.
My older, she's 15 now. When she was about 8, we had Jehovah's Witness knock on the door. And, she's standing there with me and she goes, the woman starts talking like, oh, we're here to spread the word of Jesus. And my 8-year-old goes, yeah, we're not that family. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's right. I'm like,
yeah,
get the fuck off my step.
Yeah.
Hail Satan.
Yeah.
No.
We haven't had somebody knock in a while, and I think we talked about this on one of our past shows, but I feel like they've gotten rid of that requirement to go.
I've actually been kind of meaning to ask my family that, because I've lived in this home for 2.5 years now, and I've never gotten a knock on the door. And I work from home. I'm like
Right.
here all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of
Wow.
curious.
Yeah.
I'm like but I do know that my family, like my mom and my younger sister, they go all the time. They call it, the name they have was going out in service. We're going out in service today.
Ah, got it.
We're going to be
Yeah,
in the
right. I think I remember that now from one of our other conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't there only like supposed to be like 144,000 people that get into heaven? You might want to keep a lid on the like telling people.
Well, their belief is that 144,000 will go to heaven as God's anointed and serving in his government with him, and everyone else who is saved is going to live forever on a perfect paradise earth.
So
Gotcha.
even in the afterlife, people want a government job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Do they have Doge up there? Is that going to be a problem?
Is that
Like, yeah. Is that
this
going to be a
angel's
problem?
woefully inefficient.
Yeah.
Like my perspective has changed so much. I've spent most of my adult life like hating every religion and being extremely judgmental. And then
That's very easy to do. I don't fault you.
All right, look, I'm a judgy bitch. I'm not even gonna fight that one.
And then I had my own spiritual breakthroughs outside of religion.
Mm.
And then I learned the neuroscience on spirituality, which people like the doctors who are trained can literally look at the brain scan and know whether or not spirituality is important to someone or not based on it changes the physical structure of the brain.
Oh, interesting.
I can see that. Yeah. Todd Murphy did a lot of research on that.
And there's a book called, I think it's called The Awakened Brain. Lisa Miller was the one who was like the head of one of the most like robust research projects on this. And she's like, I want to make sure that the strongest skeptics in the world who have all of the PhD names behind their name can't poke holes in this study. She's like, I don't know what the results are going to be, but I want to make sure that it's set up in such a way. And it was done, and she succeeded with that. And so certain things that I've witnessed, I'm like, okay, you have spirituality is not an act, it's an experience. It's an experience.
Sure.
And you can't take away someone's experience. And so just like reading the Bible or praying to whoever your God is isn't necessarily the spirituality, it's the experience you have, whether it's for an intended spiritual experience or not. And one thing that I've observed is that people in across every religion, when they share the story of their experience, it is so real and so undeniable. And they have that brain structure that you scan their brain has been physically altered in such a way that the study showed that you actually have more strength and resiliency for any adversity or hardship in your life. And so some people within a religious organization have those experiences and some people don't. Like I did not when I was in the Jehovah's Witness organization. And so the conclusion I've come to is it doesn't matter how a person is achieving that, if they're achieving it through a religious organization or not, let that thing be their thing, because the people who have those experiences are the people who tend to show up with more love and compassion towards other people. And you're going to find people who have that and people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum in any religious organization. So like whatever medium someone is using to get there, let them have it.
So if I just want to kind of
Nietzsche-esque.
if I just want to see like, so this fascinating study, I want to kind of look this up after the show, but like, is this saying that like this is an evolution of your brain, like, or are you just kind of born with it? So you either have it or you don't, or is this something you like a muscle you could build?
It's got to be able, it's got to be able to be wired into.
So I could be a Christmas and Easter Catholic and not have this structure at all, or I could be like super into it, like every Sunday, like communion once a month kind of thing, and have it, right? Is that what we're saying?
And the thing that they showed in the story, so how the studies were conducted would be they would take people in, they would hook up their brain to their head to whatever instruments needed to take all the data, collect the data. And they would have the people tell a story. It was through storytelling of a spiritual experience they had. It's not like, oh, I go to church every Sunday and I'm a really good Christian and I read the Bible every night. It's not that. It's tell me one single story of a spiritual experience that you had that moved you. And it became a predictable formula in the story, and specific areas of the brain would just light up when they got to a certain part of the story. Each story essentially had the same formula. And you get to a part of the story, became predictable which part of the brain was going to light up and when. And that changes the physical structure of the brain. And it changes the physical structure of the brain in such a way that now you have more strength and resiliency to handle any hardship. And while I don't think this part was necessarily covered as much, I believe that it's like, because this is my personal experience and I've talked to others, it's theirs, but I get curious. I'm like, I noticed that you don't seem to live in like fear anymore and you have more trust, and I can see it like in your body language. And I'm like, what changed for you? And it was the same thing for me. It was just like feeling feeling divinely supported in a way that I have like safety. I'm like, I feel safer. It changes something called, it's the felt sense of safety, which is a set of neurochemicals, and it activates the ventral vagus nerve. And that's one of the unifying factors between people who have this like lit up brain experience through the spiritual experience, is you have a stronger felt sense of safety. And when we operate from there, we're more creative. It's easier to have like forgiveness and like love and compassion and all this stuff. And who wouldn't want to operate from there? And you can't take away someone's experience that they have, no matter what. Like that's an experience. You can't take that away from someone.
Sure. But you know what's interesting about that, and again, I don't know anything about the study, but I guess if I'm pairing this up with other things that I'm a little bit more familiar with, I think a lot of these, and Tom, you and I were talking about this yesterday, but like, as there's sort of like a global awakening, just to be like as reductive as I possibly can here, people are finding out a bunch of new stuff. And I think that the momentum that builds with that, almost from a common sense perspective, has to have some neurological substrate that supports that. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen to people so predictably, right? Like I know people that go on everything from microdosing to meditation to weightlifting. Like, I mean, you know, there's a whole bunch of ways somebody could do this, but like once you get into that motion, you're telling the story, like if I meditate or if I lift more weights, I'm going to get to a better place, right? And so you're telling yourself this over and over and over and over and over again. And religion, I feel like I don't know, the way I'm looking at it right this second anyway, is like, it kind of feels like the same thing. Like if I'm a better person tomorrow than I was today, then I could possibly get into heaven. I'd love to be part of the 144K, right? Like, I mean, but I don't know, that kind of makes sense. I'm glad somebody actually went through and codified that. That's super interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's a great book. And, you know, I'm really fascinated by quantum mechanics. And while the people who have PhDs in it are like, what the heck's going on? What is this? Like, I have a PhD in this and I don't know what it is. And Albert Einstein wrote 2 papers about it in the 1930s, and he called it spooky action at a distance. I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, isn't it funny? He's got all the brain power in the world and he still reduces it to spooky action. Like, I mean, how like nondescript is that?
He did that so much. He even compared time dilation to like, are you having a conversation with a beautiful woman versus like, you know, doing your taxes or something?
Right.
You know, that's, you know, it's like.
Yeah. And, you know, like with quantum entanglement and quantum mechanics, like my perspective, and I could be wrong about this because I don't know about most things that exist in the universe, and I never will, and I'll be wrong about a lot of things.
Sure.
But what appears to be true until more stuff is revealed, is that like what someone might call like manifestation, oh, I manifested that, is the exact same mechanism or process as someone who said, I prayed for this and it came true.
Hmm.
It's the language. It's like the same process happening behind the veil, but depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, your language will be different.
Sure.
Makes sense.
And like, you know, so I do work in a quantum computer company. So like I share your passion for for your curiosity for all these things.
It seems to explain the science behind why these phenomenons are happening.
So I think nobody really is super clear on that, but I think structurally though, where it starts for our conversation, this concept of entanglement is interesting because there's a version of the story, and somebody, I wish I remembered where it was. I'd love to send you to this video. Somebody made one of these like sort of internet meme videos about quantum teleportation, and they did it in such a great way because really it is such a fuzzy concept, and people think that like, okay, if I want to teleport, and this is just a great example of the mystery of spooky stuff, right? If I wanted to teleport, we all think, if I asked you, hey, how do you teleport? Like your go-to, or at least most people's, would be getting this corporeal representation to another place from where I'm at, right? Like that, right? We can agree that that's like a baseline. Now, quantum teleportation is actually not that at all. What it is doing is it's saying, what is the quantum state of every particle in your corporeal representation, right? And it's finding out what matter is in there and what state that matter is existing in, and then replicating that with new matter somewhere else and just stitching it back together. So when you actually teleport, you actually never went anywhere. You just got entangled with other bits of matter in another place and reassembled in the exact same state that each one of those particles was in when it started.
That sounds like aliens too.
And then
that's a theory on aliens now.
Right. And then the original you ceases to exist. And there's an even spookier version of that where it's actually, you actually exist twice for a moment, and then the first one dies and disappears. So there's a whole, this can get weird, but like, I guess just keeping it real high level, like we, in order to pull that off, we would understand how to quantify the quantum state of every particle there, which is actually very hard because right now about 50% of a quantum computer's energy has gone to error correction to figure out how to keep all of those spinning entanglements in the right spin in entanglement. And like that takes up a lot of its power. So you hear qubit this, qubit that, right? Well, if you have a 2-qubit machine, you really only have a 1-qubit machine because the other one's going towards keeping that shit on the rails, right? Like, and so, right. And so, you end up getting into this funky little situation. But now let's just say we got a handle on that, right? Let's say we worked all that out. Prayer, in particular, could be considered an entanglement problem, right? Like you could technically, if you were good enough, just like that teleportation device, entangle with the thing that you're praying about.
Right? That's exactly what's happening.
Right. And that's where we can't really quantify it. Right. Yeah. But we can't, that's where I'm saying, like, in the teleportation example, what we know is physically what has to happen in order for that to work. We're not there yet, but that's what we know would have to happen. Prayer is sort of like what comes next, right? Okay. If we could do a machine to do that, could we train our brains just like I can train my brain to get more birds on a muse, and I could train my HRV to go down through meditation, and I can do all that to myself. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying that right now. Tom, by the way, last night I got to 47 heart rate.
Wow.
With an average of 54.
Since I had the flu, I can't get below 69. Like literally today I hit 69, and that was the slowest my heart rate's been in like 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it fucking sucks.
But I did that, Jessica, through meditation. Like I meditate on that exact thing. I'm like, how do I slow my heart rate? Slow my heart rate, slow my heart rate, right?
And
And it's just something I'm playing with right now. But like,
Are you doing the heart rate monitor one, or are you still doing the
no, I use my Apple
mindfulness one?
Watch for the
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All right. Because there is one that, like, I think it's a beating drum on Muse.
yeah, and you can get it down.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
point is like, I'm curious, to your point, Jessica, like if we figured out more about how this entanglement works, could we actually, just like I'm training my heart rate to go down, train myself on how to actually like harness some of that
Yes.
entanglement and
Absolutely.
bring that
If
thing
you
to
think it, you wire it.
That's how I live. I live my life with such intention and awareness. I live by the assumption that we are all doing that every moment of every day.
whether
And
we want to or not. It's just happening.
whether we want to or not. And that almost as if every single subconscious thought or belief that we have functions as a prayer. But when you go into what you would call prayer, there's more intention behind it. And the intention is so important. And then the more elevated the emotion is, the stronger the entanglement is. And so, actually, I have a very incredible story of something that just happened very recently that I'll go into in a minute, that some people, depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, will call a miracle, or you call it a quantum leap.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. Yeah.
Go.
I'll get there in a moment.
Okay.
Curiosity loop. But there was a study that was done about this with the intention and the emotion. And essentially, and there was a book written about it, which I haven't read yet. Dog owners who have loving, deep connections with their dogs. This was the study that was done with this, where it was like, hey, dog owners, can we borrow you and your dogs for this study with, quantum entanglement and learning about like intention and heightened emotion? And so they took the guys who said yes, the dog owners who said yes. The dogs were essentially put in like a safe, fun, doggy play day warehouse that they had never been to before. And then the owners, they're like, okay, dog owners, just go home. At some random point in the day, you're going to receive a phone call to come and pick up your dog. So the researchers would randomly call like one owner at a time. The owner would pick up the phone, and the researcher would say, it's time to come pick up your dog. In the moment that the owner had the intention, the owner would say, okay, I'll leave right now, I'm on the way. The moment the owner had the intention, the dog, only that owner's dog, not the other dog, would run to the door in anticipation to get picked up.
That's crazy.
There's a great book by Rupert Sheldrake, because how dogs know when their owners are coming home. And he also wrote another one called 7 Experiments That Could Change the World that goes deeply into this.
Yes.
And it's about the consciousness and that link. He's talking about morphic fields rather than, something physical that connects them.
And that's a great example, because people have noticed that for decades. I mean, I've heard that story since I was a kid, right? Like, oh yeah, your dog knows you're coming home 8 blocks away, right? Like, before you even get there. We didn't have Ring cameras and shit. Now people can prove this a little bit easier, but like,
Yeah. And there's these 2 horses I go and hang out with, and I would go to the store and get carrots for them. And I would be so excited on my way driving to them. And when I would get there, they would be standing in my parking space where I would normally park. Like, it's as if they knew I was coming. So then I started switching it up. Like, let me go at a different time of day. Let me change up the routine. Same thing. And they have like many, many acres. And I would show up and they're like standing in my parking spot.
That's funny.
And one of the ones that like, it has brought tears to my eyes. If you've listened to the telepathy tapes, it goes into it. You have listened to it, Tom?
I think we're loosely forming a show around that. Actually,
we're really trying to get. We've reached out to the host. I'm sure she's gotten 10,000 pitches, and now I'm working on one of the psychologists that was part of it.
Well,
but I think this is a fascinating topic for sure.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's incredible. So the thing that happened to me recently, if you're still curious,
of course,
about it, is it's about two Sundays ago. I typed into ChatGPT. I typed in all this information about myself, like 40-year-old woman, 130 pounds, This is my physical exercise. I lift weights 3 times a week. Been doing that for 12 weeks. I take casual walks and maybe 2 or 3 times a month hike with a friend, but no cardio. And haven't really ever done much. I don't consider hiking cardio. If you can hold a conversation,
Yeah.
you're
Good.
it's not really. I said, how long would it take me to train to run 10 miles without stopping, 1,000-foot elevation gain at, let's just say, 5.6 miles per hour? And it said it would take 12 weeks. And it basically gave me an entire training protocol and like the rest and how to eat and like everything. And I said, all right, ChatGPT, what if I want to do it in 3 days? And it said, Jessica, I love your spirit. Maybe you can do it symbolically.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I was just laughing out loud. Because the reason why I asked it is because I accidentally, there was no intention, I did it in 3 days. The Friday before, which was 2 days before, I did the 10-mile run, 1,000-foot elevation gain. I live on a mountain.
Sure.
The stats came out to 5.6 miles per hour. And then I asked like runners, like people who I know who are runners, and they all said it's impossible. They said it's physiologically impossible. And what happened was the Wednesday before, I was on one of my walks, and all of a sudden, I got this strange sensation in my body, like the urge to run, but not out of fear, but like a playful child on the playground. So
Sure.
I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to that. And I just started like running up the mountain that I live on. Like, this is great. Why does this feel so good? And I went I went less than a mile. And then I was like, that felt so amazing. Tomorrow on Thursday, I'm going to intentionally run. Maybe I'll do like 2 miles or 1.5 miles. I don't know. And I didn't clock it, so I don't know how far I went. I'm like, that was amazing. I'm going to go again on Friday. Maybe I'll go like 3 miles. I'm going to clock it this time. By the time I got home, I was like running back down the mountain. It was at around 3 miles, but I felt my body wanted to keep going. So I'm like, just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I want to keep going. This time I'm like running down the mountain. I'm like, oh, I should turn around. It's pretty steep. I'm like running up the mountain. I'm like feeling it. And I get to my home again, and it's at like 4.5 miles or so. You know what? I'm going to keep going. I bet I can make it to 5 miles. I bet I can make it to 5. So I kept going past my house again. It was like, got to like 5.25 miles. And I'm like, I bet I can make it to 6 miles. But in that moment, there was no logic to it. I said, I know if I make it to 6, I can make it to 10. And so as I was approaching 6 miles, I was like, oh man, I'm going to make 10 miles.
Yeah.
And I was running back and forth. And I made it to 10 miles. It was 1,000-foot elevation gain. Technically 984 feet, so 12 feet shy of 1,000, 5.6 miles per hour. And the thing that's remarkable about that is ever since I had the ciguatera neurotoxin illness, I haven't been able to run more than 1/4 mile because I would get mast cell degranulation so bad. My body would get this insane histamine response. My skin would turn red, and it felt like my body had been exposed to 10,000 mosquitoes all at once, and I wanted to rip my skin off, and my inflammation would skyrocket, and I couldn't continue.
That's insane.
I could only go 1/4 mile.
Wow.
A few times per year, I would attempt. I want to do more. I want to do more. And even like 2 months ago, I attempted 1/4 mile, stopped me in my tracks. If I'm hiking too fast up a steep hill, I have to slow down because that would be a thing in my body.
Wow.
And so call that a miracle, call that a quantum leap. But
you know what's funny though? I go once a year with a guy who doesn't run ever. And once a year, he and we haven't done it. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we haven't actually done it since COVID. I guess we fell off of that, but for years we would do this, and he didn't run at all. And I run all the time. I've done 26 marathons and 8 Ironman, 7 Ironman. I mean, I'm a runner Like I love running, right? He is not that guy, not at all, right? And so, but here's the thing: in the right company, in the right mindset, with the right motivation. I'm another year older. I want to ignore aging, and run is going to be that thing. The lowest we ever did was 12, and the highest we did was 17.
Wow.
And that was a decent, both of those were great runs for me, distance wise. Like those are both challenging runs. Like, I mean, they're not easy. But like for him, it was almost like you were describing just now, Jessica. It's just like this thing, but it's like, you have to be connected to that in order for that to be easy or for that to happen, right? Because on any other day, if it was a Tuesday and he hadn't gotten laid in a month, or he had just gotten his tax bill and it was higher than he thought, or what, like anything that could have gone wrong or even right? Anything is off in that equation, and that becomes very hard. Normal people who don't run 17 miles, period.
Right.
Period. Normal people that don't run 10 miles. Like that's not a thing either.
Yeah,
right?
they're probably not even going to run a couple miles though.
Yeah. And a little running nerd observation: runners don't run 10 miles in a zigzag pattern because it's boring as fuck, right? Like, normal runners run like either out and backs, or they do something that's like way less monotonous. You describing that, and I knew where you were going with where you were describing, like, oh my God, this lady's like literally going back and forth. I'm like, that sounds fucking awful. I would never do that.
That's why I stopped swimming after years of swimming. It was like, I just fucking hit the wall and turn around.
Yeah. Right.
Like there's no point.
And I did it again on Tuesday.
Wow.
And my favorite part was uphill. The steeper it was, if it got flat, my body was like, boring. Come on.
Yeah.
And my body I didn't train for this. And there was never a point where my lungs were feeling like they couldn't do it. Or like it was just go. But here's the story deepens, the plot thickens.
All right.
So I have a friend who a couple of weeks ago, we were hanging out, and he's like, oh, and bring your running shoes. And in my mind, I go, that's funny. He thinks I'm a runner.
Yeah.
But he said it with such conviction that my subconscious mind shifted its identity. My subconscious mind says, oh, he sees you as a runner. He's speaking that truth into you. He's seeing your potential. And something that's potent is just potential in action. So I was potent in my running that day.
Yeah.
And my subconscious mind said, oh, I'm a runner. It was spoken at me with such conviction that my subconscious mind, it was a form of hypnosis that my subconscious mind surrendered to. And that's what shifted my identity. Is one who said, bring your running shoes, with such conviction that my subconscious mind shifted its identity. But here's the thing, because that was someone who sees the greatness within me that I couldn't see myself. He saw a potential where I saw myself as limited from that histamine response.
Sure.
So,
which actually begs the deeper question: is has your histamine response been some unpacked assumptions that you've been carrying around with you since the siglotoxin situation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
That's a funny thing that we see even with other autoimmune disorders and diseases, right? So mast cell activation is like
heal it with your mind.
Yeah, but it becomes that like garbage pail diagnosis. We see this thing happening, we don't know why, and we don't have anything for you. Don't get yourself inflamed is normally what the doctors say,
Right. When in fact, like you just, and this is what I learned through like Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, is you can heal yourself with your mind, and it's the belief. And that's how I healed the rest of my Ciguatera neurotoxin illness, was with that. And there was this one lingering thing. And I'm like, my heart is still beating and I'm alive. And there were like many dozens of things where that was almost not the case. So I'm okay with this is the thing. And
right. If this is the thing, we're good.
We're good. My heart is beating. I live in a beautiful place. I have like lots of, but then the plot thickens more. I'm still in this like big healing journey with my mom, and she had like disowned me from like not being a Jehovah's Witness and like all this stuff, but there's healing taking place, and I texted her saying what happened. And instead of her saying like, wow, I'm so proud of you. That's so amazing. Look how far you've come on your healing journey. Like, look, instead of that response, it was, Jessica, you should have stopped at 5.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, other
so,
people limiting you. Yeah.
like, people limiting you, dimming your light, not seeing your greatness. And they do it out of place of love because they want to protect you. They think staying small little stepping stones is the way to stay safe, Jessica. Safe, Jessica.
No. You and I are parting ways on this one.
Yeah.
I do not think it comes from a place of love at all. I think it comes from a place of control. It's 100%, and they might not even know it. And I'm not saying your mom's
and the intention, and when Matt's saying that, at least, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Matt, but it's not even like they're not even aware that it's
that's
control,
what I was just
right?
saying.
Yeah, it's not their awareness, but they're like, oh my God, this is my kid. She's going to do something that she's going to get hurt with because she's not listening to common sense or whatever the hell you want to call it. But in your mom's head, it's like, don't do that. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah. And I agree that it is control with like, I want to control what you do because I love you and I don't want to see you get hurt.
So that's obviously one of the options, but let me throw a different sort of spin on that. I know somebody who got accepted into an art high school because they want to be an artist, right? It's a very big deal, huge way to get in. It's hard as hell to get into. It's a very big deal. They went with their parents to the school. Now they were in a GT program here, which is the gifted and talented. It's just basically like an advanced 8th grader, kind of thing, right? And has been forever. They get there and they said, well, if you were staying in a regular public school, you would be taking AP classes as a freshman because that's the next sort of step, right? So you would be in AP Spanish. It was the focal point here is Spanish class, right? Now, the student took the tact, I'm going to a very hard school that's not normal and in the sense of this, and it's going to be a lot of work from the art side. So there's really no need to bog myself down with all this AP stuff because I'm not going to be an AP linguist. I'm going to be an artist, right? Like, and I don't need this. The teacher, the Spanish teacher, was really like absolutely flummoxed. She's like, I don't understand. This is what you do academically. And like the parent was like, well, there's a pivot point here. We're no longer in school for the academic. We're in school for the art. So like, we need to like focus on that part because that's where this goes. But here's where it gets weird. Now I understand that from a Spanish teacher perspective, but here's where it gets weird. Friends of hers, parents were all being like, no, you got to do this. Because if it doesn't work out and you have to go back to a regular school, you want to not lose that momentum. And I said, what a completely ridiculous thing to say to somebody.
Yeah,
because it's all, exactly.
It's absolutely. And like, it's their projection of it.
It's their projection.
It's like, how does that hurt you at all?
They're limiting this person by putting that belief in their head when it has no bearing on reality whatsoever.
Correct.
Hey, can I just take 1 second, and I hate to say this and divert from this discussion, the fog that just rolled in behind you, Jessica, I was like, it was sunny. I watched 2 seagulls cruise by, and then it just turned gray.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail anything. It was just
welcome to the redwood forest.
Yeah, and there's a bird or 2 birds getting crazy back there, going back and forth. I love it.
I have 2 ravens, and one of them invented a name for me, and she's the only raven who makes that call. And
wow, that's awesome.
That's interesting. Yeah.
We got crows here, but yeah.
Yes. And like that, when my mom said that to me, I believe that it was her projection of herself and how she limits herself. Subconsciously, she wants to limit me to match her.
Yeah. And I think people's default mode is to do that to other people.
Correct.
Right. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not, your mom is your mom. I'm not, I'm not getting down on anybody for this. But what I am saying is like, unless you recognize that you're doing it, which takes an act of volition to recognize that, which again, almost nobody does.
Right. And now this experience is making me hyper aware of it all the time.
Well, sure. Because now every time you go to somebody and say like, you say, hey, I did this thing. And they're like, oh, but maybe you should have done this other thing. And you're like, yeah, but that other thing's less than this thing. Why would I have done that? Like, obviously it's fine.
Or it's not even what I want. It doesn't even have to be. Exactly. It doesn't even have to be a volume thing. It's just, this is not the direction I'm going in.
Yeah. And the wild thing is I already did it and I was already successful with it. It's not like,
Right.
hey, I'm planning on doing this.
Yeah.
I was already successful with it. And it was
Right.
like,
Right. It already worked out.
It already happened. Yeah,
And
you
then-
missed it.
So then like a few days later, I told my dad and his response was, Jessica, don't overdo it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Here we
Yeah.
go.
I'm like, yo, these are the people who raised me.
Yeah. No, well, you know what though? When you get off the phone with that second conversation, did a piece of you go, well, this all makes sense now?
Yeah,
Like, I just,
that's where I got that from.
yeah.
You know,
Right.
I said something to my mom that I never said before. And when she said that to me, I said, Mom, don't try to shrink how awesome I am.
Yeah. That's so
And then I
funny.
did like, you know,
Good for you.
unicorn emoji,
Yeah,
heart,
yeah.
rainbow, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said a couple other things, and she's like, Jessica, what's your goal? As far as like, she meant like running goals. And I said, to get a husband.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I hate talking to her. Like, this is so frustrating. Like, she's like, cause she wants you to play in her game and you're not. And I feel like it. She's like, this is so frustrating.
Well, that was part of, I'm like, you know, I'm going to call in a man who like demands like taking very good care of his body, so much like self-respect. And he's going to demand the same for whoever he's with. And so I got to get my butt in gear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like
But-
now I love lifting. It's like, I will never go back. Lifting is incredible.
Yeah. Everybody I know who does it seems to fall into loving it. I'm doing this 90-day lifting thing right now. And if I'm being totally honest, I don't love it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Right?
I hated every day I was powerlifting, but then felt so good afterwards. Like
Right,
it was like this fucking sucks. I'm pushing 50. Why am I trying to get 500 pounds up?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then you're like, no, I feel pretty good. And then one day my coach was like, dude, you got real big.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You're like, okay, fine. I feel better.
All right, I'm gonna go snort some creatine.
Yeah.
I had some this morning.
Yeah. Right. But I applaud people doing it. And I love that people, I think there is no shorter lever to pull than weightlifting at a high. I mean, you know, lift heavy shit is not a,
Kettlebells is a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you into that, Jess?
I do have a kettlebell, but I don't use it very often.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. But I'm starting to like, you know, get my way more into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some ab workouts with it.
It's a nice full body workout where you can get cardio too, right? You can get yourself out of breath. What's his name? Pavel, the Russian
yeah.
guy.
Be careful though.
So much.
It's a religion.
It's a cult.
It's a cult.
It's a cult.
Yeah. Don't go
Strong
too far
first.
down. Yeah. Don't go too far down that rabbit hole. So Jessica, what are you getting into? Like, I know we had talked about a project you got going. What else is on your
Did you
little
even get
list?
into the list? Did
Yeah,
we even
let's
touch
talk
that
about
list
this.
yet?
How much of this did we not touch? All of it?
All of
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
She talked about something that wasn't on the list.
Yeah.
I've been having fun. Some of my latest videos on YouTube are about the neuroscience of courtship.
Interesting.
And things like vasopressin and how most men are vasopressin, like could have a lot more vasopressin bonding in their life, things like that. I'm working on a project right now called, the Identity Project, and it's for men who want to have fun shifting into a new identity rather than having the mindset it's going to be like grueling and hard and challenging and all this discipline and, you know, like one of the things that my NLP instructor taught me, and I've adopted this on a subconscious level, and my experience reflects it as being true for me now, is things can be fun and easy. Things can be fun and easy. On Tuesday, when I was running up the mountain, it was fun and easy for me to run up steep hills without training to run up steep hills. I was loving it. Like legitimately. And so I've turned it into a game. I'm gamifying
Sure. Love it.
identity shift and using a few different tools. One of the tools is an app called Habitica, which is kind of set up to be like a 90s RPG. Think of like early Zelda.
Yeah.
And so I've created it on the inside. I'm almost done with it.
Like gold cartridge Zelda?
And how much do you have to blow in this?
Did I just do it? I had the gold cartridge.
Yeah.
The envy of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. I
No.
threw you off there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's essentially like daily lists, and then like your habit lists, and there's like a plus sign when you do the thing in the good way. You get all these points, and then you can use that to like battle monsters and like armor up, things like that. And if you do like an old pattern, it takes away points.
Mm.
And so there's already like when you make a checklist, if you like handwrite a checklist of a to-do list and it's like on your counter, every time you go to like cross something off that you did, you get a dopamine hit. And knowing, even having awareness that you have that to-do list gives you dopamine, because dopamine, it gives us motivation. So you're like motivated to do the thing so you can cross it off. Even though that sounds trivial, it adds motivation. But in the way, so Habitica is over 10 years old, and they've mastered it in a way to help work with our neurology and our dopamine system, so that you turn your life into like a real life RPG, in such that when you put the time and effort in, you get real life results rather than just digital results that don't mean anything. You get real life results. And you get to work together with everyone. You can make quests where everyone who's involved in the identity project gets to work together to like battle monsters and go on quests together. So I'm still learning how it all works. And then I'm going to be putting together like a WhatsApp group. It is going to be for men only. And then there's built-in things as for the habits, like chivalry. You did an act of chivalry today. So part of it is bringing back healthy masculinity.
So I love everything you're doing. I laugh because everybody gamifies things these days. And I personally have very conflicted feelings about that, because I'm not a gamer, therefore don't respond to gamification well. In fact, I kind of go the other way with gamification. I'm like, God damn it, just give me the fucking thing. I don't want to play a game. Like, you know, but I do understand that almost nobody thinks like that, and therefore I'm the weirdo, not.
But Matt, I think if we're talking about casting the biggest net,
no, for sure, that's what I'm saying.
Video games were so profound, especially for like our age range.
Oh, sure.
We were the first ones to kind of get them past like Pong, right? And now it's like, God, I was playing video games with my daughter last night.
But you know what I was, though? And this is the reason why I think it didn't happen for me. I was real quest oriented. So like I'd play Super Mario Brothers until we passed it. So I remember.
Yeah. And then you're done. Yeah.
Mario Brothers 4, when that came out, my buddy, my best friend, even to this day, he and I sat at my house for an entire weekend until we passed that thing. And then I never played it again. Like it was basically like what know, so I can get very obsessed with it, but it's like real goal oriented. Like, so, and then I'm like, all right, and I'm out. Like and I can't say that like the playing the game was never the motivation for me. Like it was getting to the end. Yeah. Finishing it. Right. Like, so,
Matt, I'm with you. I'm very conflicted about the gamification of things, because of like, oh, it's just another dopamine hit. Like
it is.
And I'm all about earned dopamine, rather than the easy button to dopamine. And let's have this, like the bigger earned dopamine is happening from what you're doing in your real life. And then you get to come and like click the little thing and noise and do the
bells
thing.
Are going off and dinging.
Yeah. And it's more than just what I have going in Habitica. It's a game. I've created 15 rules to the game. When you follow the rules, you do see very real life changes and shifts in your identity, who you are, how you show up, and you get to decide and choose who you want to be.
Why am I shifting in the first place, though? Like, are you focusing on a group?
What is there a certain person that you're targeting?
So, say you have identified a limiting belief or habit or behavior or addiction.
Like running up a hill, perhaps.
Yeah. Like if you get rid of a single limiting belief and convert it into an empowering one, you have just shifted your identity.
Oh, interesting. Okay, gotcha.
That is an identity shift.
Okay, gotcha.
So every time you change even a micro habit, you have shifted your identity. So it's becoming super aware of every part of who you are that is limiting you, from who you could be, who you want to be, who you desire to be, how you want to show up in this world for yourself, for others, the impact and the service that you want to do. How do you want to have an impact beyond just your own self-pleasure? What's your purpose? And how do you want to show up with courage? How do you want to, so all these things, it's recognizing what version of myself do I want to show up as? The potential is there. Let me reach it. Let me do what I can to get there. And so the identity project helps to create structure and motivation and accountability and have fun with it and turn it into like a playful game. And your life becomes an RPG and you get to have fun with it.
That's cool.
And then there's going to be a brotherhood where there'll be like a WhatsApp group where everyone can be a part of it, and then they can talk about their real life challenges or just be totally open, like with whatever it is. And then they will have another man or a group of men that they can speak to legitimately, because one of the things that is so missing is men being in a part of a brotherhood that used to be like built into society, and it's not now. And it is one of the biggest detriments to men is men not having other men who they can fully open up to and confide in and be held accountable in a compassionate and respectful way.
I would agree with you there.
I was just going to say, I think that's definitely a thing we could all sort of, at least as men, we can wrap our heads around. Actually, I'm part of this other men's group well, not officially yet, but it's in progress right now. But I can't say that I'm officially there, but it's a men's group. It's international. And I got to be honest with you. I went to like 3 like preview events a couple months ago to kind of get the ball rolling. And I felt a little awkward, not because they did anything. In fact, it was the exact opposite. I've never felt more welcome anywhere in my entire life, but it was almost shameful to be in something that was male focused, right? Like it was almost like, oh, I'm supporting the systemic misogyny, like I just had all these fucking weirdo narratives rolling through my head. And part of that's because I'm an Xer and we have to think that way. It's part of the deal. And the other part is just like, we live in a world where everybody misconstrues this stuff and you hear this shit nonstop. And like at a certain point, even thoughtful, introspective, conscientious people, which I like to think I am those things, still gets trapped in that. And like, no, I can't be in a men's group. What the fuck? This is bad.
That almost toxic masculinity label is ascribed to anything rather than where it's supposed to be, and that's funny too. Cause like we've had Dre on the show before, right? The shaman, like I go and get lunch with him. And the first thing we said to each other is like, yeah, my wife and his girlfriend were both like, you gotta hang out with more dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, all right, cool. You're giving me permission to go.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like,
in fact, I'm telling you to go hang out. Please get out of my house.
Just bro out for a little bit. It's cool. Like you're not crossing a line there, Yeah.
Like for men to really be in their full, solid, healthy masculinity, like you must be part of like a brotherhood, have other men who you can just open up about anything, all of it, the deepest vulnerabilities, and know that you're going to be held in a way that will uplift you, empower you, like get you to your next level. And then also just like have fun, play, mess around, joke,
Yeah. And I think that that's one of those things that we don't, but again, I think it's a guilt thing, right? Like, you get,
I have all these other commitments and I'm going to go fuck around for a weekend. Yeah. Stuff like that.
Yeah. But so that's where the mind shift needs to take place, where it's, oh, the more that I am sharpening my sword in the men's group, then I show up as a better father. I show up as a better husband. I show up as a better coworker, neighbor, community member. I need to go sharpen my sword in the presence of these.
Sounds like a euphemism.
Yeah.
And that's it. Well,
just being a bunch of dudes sharpening our swords.
That will create better intimacy in the bedroom when you are able to now show up in a way where your wife feels just like so protected by you. When you have that grounded presence, that grounded, full focus presence, when she feels protected and important, like, yo, she's gonna like be dragging you to the bedroom.
Right. And I think there is something to be said about that. Like
I would agree with that.
When
too.
guys are like, when guys sit around and talk to other guys like the way they used to, like saying, oh man, look at the ass on that, or like check out her tits, or like, you know, like, and get kind of vulgar and crude about it. Like there is something empowering about that, in the sense that like, we're not going caveman style to grab this woman by her hair and drag her into a cave. But like, there's something that kind of ignites this masculine energy. And I don't want to say it's harmless, because it's not always harmless, but in a large part, that's just sort of peacocking, right? Like you're running around, you're like, look at how much I could talk about her ass, right? Like, but like, to your point, when you leave that conversation, you feel a little bit more centered in that masculine energy than you did if you just came out of a crochet class with your girlfriend, right? Like that's not maybe going to leave you in the same sort of centered masculine spot, right? Like, and I don't want to pick on crochet. I mean, I like to sew. I mean, as much as the next guy, but like, I don't necessarily leave that.
It's all leather seats for motorcycles, though.
You know, there's a men's group who does sew, and they're like the most extreme guys, because they're fire jumpers. They're literally jumping out of like airplanes into forest fires, but then they like sit around and like drink tea and probably have whiskey. And they're sewing their parachutes. They're sewing like the holes in their parachutes, and like they do it together, and they're like bonding.
And that shit should definitely need to work.
That's
like, that's like sewing on another level, man. Like, I don't know if I trust my sewing that much, right? Like I trust it enough to make a bedspread, but I'm not sure, or curtains, or hem my pants, but I don't know if I'm jumping out of an airplane with something.
Maybe a good 2-story fall.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Well, to what you were saying, Matt, about the like, you know, so knitting or crocheting with your girlfriend or wife or whatever, you're not going to feel that like fiery passion. The thing that does bring that is any activity that does vasopressin bonding. And so, you know, women are like flooded with oxytocin receptors, and men have them, but not nearly as many. Whereas men have tons of vasopressin receptors, especially those who are of the avoidant attachment style have even more. And vasopressin bonding is so important for men. It is a non-negotiable to anchor safety into your neurology, is vasopressin bonding, which there's 2 circumstances that it happens. Immediately after ejaculation, a man's vasopressin skyrockets.
Okay.
But then also anytime there's teamwork, coordination, cooperation, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's with your wife, or whether it's at work with your coworkers, the group of people who have more vasopressin bonding more than anyone else is combat veterans. Because the higher the stakes, the more important it is to communicate correctly and at the right time. The more complex it is, and the higher the risk, the higher the stakes, the more vasopressin bonding there is. And the result is not what matters, but it's during the process of the coordination, the cooperation, the teamwork, the communication. And whether it's something as simple as like, hey, we're going to clean the house together today, babe. You take the upstairs, I'll take the downstairs. We'll be dancing, listening to music. Or like, hey, if we get this wrong, like one of us or some of us could die.
Right. So, that's interesting that it happens immediately post ejaculation and in combat. Like that feels like 2 dramatically different situations.
Here's what it does. Vasopressin bonding, when a man has vasopressin bonding, he says, I am going to fiercely be loyal to you and fiercely protect you. It's loyalty and protection, loyalty and protection. So let's take it back to evolutionary, biology behavior. If a caveman just impregnated a cave woman, evolutionarily, the best chance for his offspring to survive is if he is fiercely protective of that woman.
I see. Yeah. Right. And I guess ejaculation is sort of the culmination of, or the start of that journey, right? Like you're like, all right, I've done step 1. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. I never would have pieced that together, but that is pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah. And we can go into the oxytocin in a bit if you want. But a lot of men who are feeling like they have a lot of anxiety or depression, or there's something just feels off and empty. There's multiple things going on. It's like they're probably massively lacking vasopressin bonding. And that's one of the dangers of pornography, is now a man who ejaculates to pornography. He is fiercely loyal and protective of pornography, but since it's paired with a higher hit of dopamine than almost anything else that he will experience, on a subconscious level, he is now more loyal and protective to pornography than he will be of his wife.
And that, you know, what's funny about that is this is very recently, I can't remember where I read this, but they said the theory was, if you're going to watch porn, pick like 3 porns that you like and just watch those, because you reduce the variation in that. And from what you're saying right now, it seems like the impetus there is to sort of work around that problem. Like if I'm only jerking off to these 2 women or these 3 women, or maybe 1 woman in 3 different scenes, I'm not really sure. I didn't go too deep into it, but maybe I'm not sending my brain as far off the beaten path as it would normally be. But it's interesting. I'm just drawing. I've never heard that before, and I just recently read that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm wondering if these things are related.
So yeah, you're reducing the novelty, and novelty is very addictive. Gotta go back more, gotta go back more, gotta
Right.
go back more. But then if you're just ejaculating to the same things over and over, you're becoming more loyal and protective to that on a subconscious level.
I see.
So there's a, thinking about it from that perspective also. And then that can kind of take away neurologically, then there's less of a vasopressin bond to the real life person that you're sexually active with. And from a neurological perspective, you're now less loyal and protective over whoever that partner might be for you.
Interesting. Now, is vasopressin a neurological thing, or is it a hormone thing?
Both. So when it's in the body, it's called a hormone. When it's in the brain, it's a neurotransmitter.
Yeah, neurotransmitter. So this is a hormone, right?
It's a hormone.
Yeah,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Got
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yes. And
It regulates blood pressure.
And this is
in
the reason
that case.
why also team video games are so addictive, because all of the men, and why teenagers, boys, men tend to get into it more, is because of the vasopressin bonding. And since so many men and teenage boys, they're not having real vasopressin bonding in real life with real life people, like that they know their names
Right.
of, and like handshake and high five and tackle. So there's something missing. So then when they go to video games, their neurology says, oh, this is what's been missing. And it's partnered with massive spikes of dopamine. So it's highly addictive, highly vasopressin bonding. So they become fiercely loyal and protective of their video games. And on a neurological, like what's happening on a subconscious level, it is the best thing in their life, far more than any experience they could have with a family, a loved one, a best friend. When they go into the video game world, that experience is unrivaled. So it takes away from the connection and the experience you could have in real life. So you remove the video games, and now the neurology, you need time for the neurology to reset and kind of almost subconsciously forget that video games are an option. You go and create those vasopressin bonds in real life. And the difference is now with the real life people, you get to experience it in that same heightened level with video games once the neuroreceptors resensitize and reset. But with real people that you're engaging and that you know their names of, you're like seeing them in real life, there's another component that's so important that's being brought in, is courage through vulnerability. Courage through vulnerability. Video games lack that option.
Sure. I was just going to say that's not something you learn in a video game at all.
So video games breed weakness in men.
Yeah.
Weakness. You got to bring that to the real life to bring in the vulnerability through courage. Hey man, let me tell you what's going on in my life. Face to face.
Right. And I think there is an accountability there as well that I think is part of that earlier conversation about men getting together with men, and like there is an accountability right there, right? Like there's and I don't even know if accountability is the right word, but there's at least a reflection of your thought in other like people, right? Like and I don't think you need to reflect. In fact, actually, I have this sort of reflection with my teenage son all the time and all of his friends. They were in middle school during COVID. Like
Yeah.
they weren't just
It really
in middle
messed
school.
up any kind of
Yeah.
socialization. Yeah.
They were not just in middle school. They were right in the middle of middle school. So it was a critical transition point for developmentally speaking. And what did they do? They had video games 24/7 because if it wasn't school, the only way they could hang out with their friends was on Fortnite and,
Mhm.
like these things, right? So now the bonds of social masculinity were forged in Minecraft and Fortnite, not on the playground, right?
Right.
Or riding bikes. And while there's a rational part of me that understands that, there is also a visceral part of me that's like really rebelling against that. Like, I
You
mean,
don't like video games.
well, it's not just that I don't like video games, but if my son was an alcoholic or if my son was a drug addict, I wouldn't be so cavalier about it. And
Yeah.
I think if you want to get down to brass tacks, I think there's a very fine line between device addiction and drug addiction. In fact, I mean, we've talked about this a million times,
Yeah.
but if you look at fMRIs, they are indistinguishable, right? They're, so, I'm not even like just crazy dad here. I'm like, no, there's mountains of evidence on this. You don't even have to take my word for it. Like there's there's nothing but evidence on this, but like we've normalized it, right? Like we say this is okay. And then we make further excuses. I just did it here. It's because of COVID. Okay, well, great. You know what? Like I was sexually abused as a child maybe, but like I can either turn that into one version of an adult or I can go a harder path and make it a different version of an adult. The only difference is how much energy I'm willing to allocate towards repatterning. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I am saying it's going to be worth it because on the other side of that, like
some modicum of health. Yeah.
You're infinitely healthier when you don't have those confines around you, right? And again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but I think my biggest observation is people get into a all left or all right situation here, right? They're either online too much or they're like me and they're really not online ever, right? Like, and I'm not saying, and neither of those I think are necessarily healthy. I'm sure I could learn a lot more being more digitally involved, but I opt full out. Like, okay, so I'm not saying that's better, but like,
I have noticed my life quality improve when like I don't watch TV anymore.
Sure.
It's not even like I watch YouTube and they're like educational things, but I'm like entertained by it.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those people who sits down in the evening like I used to, and like most people, and like watch a few Netflix episodes every night. I've completely omitted that from my life, and that has resensitized my dopamine receptors even more. And that translates into my real life. Like as I go about my day, I find myself in awe all the time.
Right.
The things that I'm noticing are amazing to me that most people would ignore because they don't even see it because it's not as stimulating.
Yeah. No, I get you. Jessica, I love talking to you. We got to play the music here. I think, I love that every time we talk to you, we end up like setting out one intention and going down like 12 other
never talking about anything we thought we were going to.
It's the best.
What I also want to take a second and just acknowledge that I love the diversity that you bring to our conversations, right? Because every time we talk to you, I don't want to say you're in a completely different path because you're really not. But your evolution on your path has been really fun to like follow along with because you really do have an interesting way of problem solving. And I think if you were to look at it at a 50,000 foot view, you'd be like, well, that's not the most logical thing. I would think we would go there. But then when you start getting into it, you're like, you know what, that actually makes a little sense. So I guess I wanted to say I appreciate the thought provocation in a lot of the things we talk about.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Tom. It's an honor. It's so much fun.
Yeah, well, you know the drill. When we're done, don't go anywhere. Yeah. But yeah, I thank you again so much
for coming back. Yeah.
Just so we can say the word owl, we can't have gone
I was hoping
entire
to
episode
see an
with Jessica.
owl. I thought there was going to be an owl in the window at some
I got to
point.
at least say the word owl for the transcript. And yes, if one of those birds was an owl, I would have considered this a very,
I'm just
very amazing.
So like next time we talk to her, there might be like an owl nest in the window.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
like, yeah, that's it. There we go.
That's hilarious.
Full circle.
Guys, have a lovely weekend. Jessica, thank you again so much. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.